Hello everybody, I'm Talbot. I've got my old mate with me today, the PM, Gary Thorpe. Gary fishes the meat, I fish the meat, and we've probably got a few different ways of doing things. I'm in the hot seat, I'm going to show you my way, and Gary maybe ask me a few questions and telling me a few thoughts on the way he works the meat prior to going fishing. Right, let's start off. We've got our bits and pieces. All different types of meat. I buy mine from the pound shop on the high street in the local town. Obviously in the pound shop it's only £1, and out of that piece of meat you get about, out of that tin of meat you get about a pint of feed. A few little bits and pieces here needed, and the secrets in this bag are the additives, which when I cut the meat up I'll show you exactly what we do with that to colour that meat up and make it more attractive to what's going to eat it, which is the fish. Gary is very interested in these little bags. It says on the top, always stop at the curb, and he still doesn't know what's inside there, so we'll leave that right until the end. Okay, so first of all, let's open. My favourite tin of meat is that one. It's Prince's Bacon Grill. Why bacon grill and not luncheon meat? There is a reason. When I open that and prepare it, it smells like smoked bacon. I much more prefer smoked bacon in my sandwich than unsmoked bacon, and it's got a different taste and smell that catches fish. I prefer that. So let's get the tin open.
What do you find the texture different between bacon grill and luncheon meat?
A little bit softer than some of the luncheon meats bacon grill is. And normally, when I'm cutting my meat at home, and I haven't got that facility here today, although we're in an angling cafe, pouring down with rain outside, we're going to be fishing a little bit later. I like, if I can, to put it in the fridge for a few hours, put the whole tin in the fridge for a few hours, and it cuts a little bit squarer than really soft meat. Luncheon meat I don't have too much of a problem with, but because the bacon grill's texture is soft, I like to cut it when it's cold. Why the kitchen roll? Well, this reason. A lot of fats in meats, and what I like to do to start with, and it's not being too tarty, it's just to skim from the outer surface of the meat. And this meat has not got a lot of fat on it, the bacon grill, whereas the plum rose has probably got more juice and fat on the outside, is to take off the excess fat. That stops that floating, and as you know, when we're fishing commercial fisheries, no floating baits, it stops that meat floating to skim that fat off. Okay, let's put that to one side for a minute. A meat cutter, come in various sizes. This is an original one that was built in the West Midlands. I don't know the guy that made it. Bought it many years ago. A few bits have broken off, but the wire's still good, and we place the meat in that end to start with. We cut long strips, and I always notice with the size of the tin these days that the top strip is a waste of time. It's too thin and it doesn't cook properly. So that goes out onto the bird table. Magic little brush. Just push the meat through. I don't know whether you can see that, Gary. Meat in there. And I don't like to cut it all in one lump. So I'll take some of the slices out, place it in a tin, and then use about 4 at a time. I've got a thin slice there as well. We'll get rid of that.
Is that your standard size cutter, is it, that one?
I only have one cutter, Gary. I keep it very simple. I don't cut bigger sizes. I'm not even sure what size that is. It's probably 8mm.
Why do you only do a few slices at a time then?
Just personal preference, Gary. I keep the little pieces nice and square. They don't come out at an angle. I don't get misshapes doing it that way. And normally, you or I are probably cutting 3 or 4 tins up in one go. So I open 3 or 4 tins, just cut them into slices, and then just keep working them through quickly. And when it's warm, it is easier to get through Notice the brush, just pushing the little ones through. Ordinary paintbrush, probably about 3/4 of an inch of bristles left on there, all chopped off. 1 tin of meat cut into squares, and if you don't want to add any additives, all you've got to do is take it to the fishery in a little cool bag. You know what's in there, Gary?
No, an ice pack, is it?
Yeah. Well said, ice pack, because he hadn't seen in there. Any questions?
No, carry on.
Okay. Meat is tipped into there. That'll take about...
Not in a bag?
Pardon?
Not in a bag?
No.
Plastic bag?
No, don't need it. Because all you need to do when you're at the fishery, you've taken them in your bait bag, like that. All you need to do is open the zip, put your hand in there, take a handful of meat out, put it in your tray, and you're feeding fresh meat all the time. I've watched some anglers, some great meat anglers who fish at Woodlands Fishery up at Thirst many years ago. They actually feed out of there. They just have a bag on their tray. So I've nicked the idea.
Don't soak it in water then, you meat? Keep it in water?
Yes, depending on the quality of the meat. If the meat's got a lot of fat on it, and some meat that you buy, and I don't want to
No, but they're different countries, that's the trouble, isn't it? Princess comes from...
Denmark?
No, Holland.
Holland?
And that's a Danish meat.
Yeah. And
which is a firmer meat.
A firmer meat, but a little bit more fat in. So that meat, yes, I would soak in water. Just like you would have probably casters in water, soak it in water, wash it off, drain it off, and then it will, the majority of it will sink. Odd pieces will float, but the majority of it will sink. Hot day, soaked in water. But not mega amounts of meat in the bait tub. You don't want mega amounts of meat in the bait tub, and that's enough to start your session off with. Okay, what we got here then? We've got additives called atomic cloud that we can colour that meat with. They've all got various names. We've got worm, we've got cat meat, we've got strawberry, and what we'll do, I've opened this one earlier. We've got strawberry atomic cloud. Just let me take a few of those because this is really interesting on the quantity you need to colour that meat. I would say there is no more than a tablespoonful of powder. And all you've got to do is keep shaking. Keep shaking. Keep shaking.
That's where I put mine in the bag, so I'll put it in the bag and shake the bag.
I'm not into bags, Gary.
No, I can see that.
No, I like tubs myself. I'm not really into bags. No. It can cause a lot of litter as a fishery, and I like doing it in tubs. Once you've done that, if you put that back in the fridge, that will keep in a fridge, an airtight container, for a week. It will go a little bit drier. You may have to add a little bit more powder, but the longevity, and I don't know whether there's a preservative in this, I've never asked the supplier, but it keeps nice and dry in a refrigerator.
You find the longer the cloud's on there, the more it actually soaks into the meat.
And it does.
Right inside it.
Yeah, and it does. And even with that amount of preparation to create a lovely coloured meat there, let's do another colour. Let's put some yellow on and see what happens now. Even with that on, that can go into water, and this has been bucket tested at home. That can stay in water for up to 24 hours before it washes out. It slightly washes out, but it's still attractive to fish after 24 hours. Right, let's have a look at number 2. Yellow. Very high colour that. You're fishing corn, you're feeding corn. I've probably put too much powder on that actually. I've used more than I needed to. And in this day and age, we don't want to be throwing stuff away. So, you're feeding corn, you're fishing corn, and you've got a yellow meat. You've got a yellow meat that has got a pineapple flavour to it. It's got a fruity flavour to it. Fish like sweetness, particularly in the summer months. So there we have, guys, two different meats. Cat meat will take on a different colour. The worm will take on a purple if you want it. And also the green one, whose name I've actually forgotten. So let's have a quick look. Halibut. The good old halibut smell. That's your green colour. So there we are.
So I do mine like that. And I add the extra powder for fish and snake lakes.
Yep.
So I'll actually feed the powder with the meat then to give the cloud as well.
Right. But don't you find a lot of the time, Gary, when you're putting cloud into the water, and particularly with meat, because of its drop rate, we get the fish coming up off the bottom.
Fish far bank, snake lake.
So you're fishing that deep, and you're fishing it on the deck or off the deck? Interesting.
So I wouldn't do it deep water, because like you said, they will come up in the water.
They rise up off the deck, don't they? And then you've got all sorts of problems during your match, during your pleasure session, because you're getting liners. So guys, there's the original. Perfect to feed on its own. Recapping, I like the smoked stuff, and it's bacon grill. I've prepared that in no time. You can feed it if you wish. You can use it as a contrasting hook bait. And the next time you see me working with this will be out on the bank. Anything you'd like to add, Gary?
No, that's it, Mel.
Are you any good at meat fishing?
I do a bit. I'm not as good as you at it.
Oh, that's kind. See you out there, pal.
Cheers.